Hello, we're good now? Okay. Welcome everyone. My name is Sasaka Kayinde. Welcome to TV Radio in Pinduka. Today is February 2nd, 2025. I want to thank you, our viewers, for always supporting us and coming to have these conversations about Rwanda and our region with us. Today, we will be speaking on the ongoing conflict in Eastern Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and we'll just be analyzing how this affects not just neighboring countries, but our own country and what we can anticipate ongoing. I have two guests here, Marceline Duamungu and Mr. Celestin Sengiyumva. Did I say that right?
No, you're perfect.
Okay. All right. So I'll give each of you about 2 minutes or so to introduce yourself, and we'll start with you, Marceline. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Sasha. 2 minutes will be too long because I am just Marceline Duamungu living in Belgium, and I am in the International Women's Network for Democracy and Peace, the Belgian desk, and we advocate for human rights, especially in the Great Lakes region of Africa. Okay, hope we have a good conversation here.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, Mr. Celestin, please.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you. I'm Celestin Sengiyumva. It is not my first time to come to intervene on this platform. I'm delighted to reconnect with Marceline. We kind of worked very close to each other in the 80s. And I thank you, Sasha and Denis, for allowing me to reconnect with her, Marceline. I'm really pleased. And I'm also pleased that we are going to talk to a subject which touches on all our lives, the life of our countries, and about the crisis which is now unfolding in Eastern Congo. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's just dive in. So I thought before we began, I could give a couple definitions to people, because I find that those who haven't been following this issue, they often get confused and jumbled by the words, the names, etc., and the parties that are involved in all this. So the country that is being affected is the Democratic Republic of Congo. I know there's two Congos, but I'll just be referring to it as Congo. This is Congo with capital city in Kinshasa. In Eastern Congo, there are two provinces called Southern Kivu and Northern Kivu. These provinces border the country of Rwanda. And this is where in Eastern Kivu, where we're seeing all the atrocities come up. We also have two other words to define, and that is what people call the rebels, M23. Now, that just stands for, I believe, March 23rd. It was the day their movement was created, sometime early 2000s, I believe. These rebels claim to be Congolese Rwanda phones. I don't know what that means because we've never met Burundi phones or Uganda phones, but we have Rwanda phones. So these rebels claim to be Rwanda phone Tutsis, and with a mix of some non-Tutsis who are fighting the Kinshasa government to get their rights back of their land and their homes. We know this to be a lie, or history has showed this to be a lie. This group, before they were M23, they were RDC, RCD Goma. They've been very many names that these rebels have taken, but all that they share in common, regardless of what year or what name they had, is that they're funded and supported by the Rwandan government, particularly the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the ruling party, and the ruling party army. And Rwanda describes all of this, that it started in 1995, 1996, where they had to chase against the Hutu refugees who had crossed into the borders of Eastern Congo in order to protect or gives security to the Rwandan state. So from that, we now have estimates of since 1995 to now about 7 million or more have lost their lives throughout all these wars. We've had the first Congo World War. We've had the second Congo World War. The second one was one of the most deadly war. This is where we had people like Tanganda, who called himself, these were the rebel leaders. Tanganda called himself Terminator. We had others called Lankunda. And really, this does bring us to our discussion. So in the context of our time right now, in 2022, particularly in July, the Rwandan Defense Forces, under the cover of their proxy M23, started to cross over and capture many localities, including places like Kanyabayonga, Masisi, Minova. Earlier this week, things have intensified because rebels are now claiming that they've captured Goma, the capital city of the northern Kivu province. This is a real hub of strategic mineral resources that the Rwandan government has been exploiting and rebranding as Rwandan in order to release them to the international market. So like I said, more than 7 million have been killed over the last 3 decades in the region, 7 millions of internally displaced people countryside, 500,000 women, girls have been raped as a tool of terrorism and ethnic cleansing, honestly. Meanwhile, we see in the international community only empty declarations, very soft condemnations against M23 and the Rwandan army or the Rwandan state, despite numerous evidence, photo evidence that it is M23 RDF committing these war crimes. There has been multiple peace processes and accords happening, both Nairobi and Luanda peace process, to try to settle this conflict, had to be put on hold. And yeah, there's just been very much dodging of justice and accountability about this issue. So I thought we could first start with just kind of giving our overall general thoughts on this ongoing crisis. I feel like after the Rwandan genocide in '94, that Great Lakes region has not had any breathing space, and it's been one atrocity after another, one war after another. So before we start diving deep into I'd like to give you each a couple minutes to give me your thoughts on what's ongoing. We'll start with Celestine and then Marceline.
Sasha, and you, Marceline, and all our listeners and hearers, I need to tell you that there is a kind of confusion about the terms of Rwandan and Banyarwanda. So in Congo, there are Banyarwanda, but they are not Rwandans. And some of these people are also found in Uganda, southwestern Uganda. You find Banyarwanda, but they are not Rwandans. Rwandans are the Banyarwanda who were in Rwanda at independence in 1962. Before that, we were all Banyarwanda, but those Banyarwanda who became Rwandans were the subject of the Kingdom of Rwanda. But these people in Eastern Congo and southwestern Uganda were not under the King of Rwanda, but they were populations who shared with Rwanda the same language and culture. These people are Ugandan Banyarwanda. And those in North Kivu and even South Kivu are Congolese Banyarwanda. Whereas those who are in Rwanda as we know it today are called Rwandans. I wanted to make that understood.
Thank you. That clears things, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Oh no, I meant go on. I just thought that was a very good distinction because most people can understand about people like Luos, Maasai, but they struggle when it comes to Banyarwandas. Yeah.
Yeah, what is strange about the situation in that area is that having populations on both same population on both sides of an international border in that particular area is a subject of conflict. But as we all know, we have Acholis in Uganda and South Sudan. We have between Tanzania and Mozambique, we have Makonde people. We have Ndebele people in Zimbabwe and South Africa. We have Bakongo in Angola, Congo Kinshasa, and Congo Brazzaville. It is not easy to understand why the presence of Banyarwanda in Rwanda, who are Rwandans, and in Congo, who are Congolese. It is not difficult to. It is very difficult to understand why only in this area the situation is a conflictual situation. But the origin of the problem is in Kigali. Kigali has been trying to use these people to lay claims on lost territories. They claim, they say lost territories, but these territories had never been Rwandan. They have been Banyarwanda territory, but never Rwandan. The Rwandan territory came to be at independence, and as everybody should know, it was agreed in Addis Ababa in 1963 that all former colonies becoming independent must respect colonial boundaries. So colonial boundaries and now boundaries between state nations of Africa are not really walls separating or erected between African countries. Because, as you know, the African Union had agreed to create an African common market, and that implies the lifting or the removal of boundaries so that people could move to and fro between borders. So really, borders should not be a problem, and it is a futile. It is a useless exercise to try to reclaim a territory since you can use that territory without fighting. It is in the African Treaty creating the African Common Market. Common market means that you take away boundaries so that goods and people and capital and labor can move in any direction at will. So there is no need to fight for it. But the government in Rwanda has found it necessary to attack Congo. And one of the reasons which they never admit is that there are people who have been being discriminated against. Now, lastly, the president has been talking about asking the international community to look into the root cause of this conflict. But I think they are going to be embarrassed because the real root cause is minerals.
Yes.
Minerals. Not the borders per se. So I can stop here to allow Marceline to...
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Marceline, any thoughts on all that we've spoken about so far?
Yeah, what is astonishing is that what we can see is the change in Rwandan narratives for the cause of the wars. Because I talk of wars because they started in 1996. Then restarted in 1998, then went on until now. We see that they change in narratives, they change the reason why they are fighting. So if they are fighting to restore the territory, so let's tell Uganda to be ready, to be next, to be attacked, and Tanzania too. What about Burundi? So I think that that's story of boundaries is just a narrative that can't hold because
Okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. We're having a bit of tech issues at the moment, but we are back. I just want to remind you that today we're talking about the atrocities, massacres, and ongoing crimes and war in Eastern Congo, particularly right now in North Kivu, in the city of Goma. I had just asked my guests to give quick response on how their opening thoughts. Mr. Celestine had just given us a really good summary of the difference between Banyarwanda as an ethnic group and how then you can have Banyarwandas in Congo, Banyarwandas in Uganda, and Banyarwandas in Rwanda. And we were talking about how these crimes and wars of colonial borders must change in order to see growth and change in the region, particularly one of free trade and free movement of people. So Marceline, if there's anything you wanted to add into that before we start diving deep into the actual Congo.
Yeah, I was just saying that the narratives from the Rwandan side are changing every day. And I said that if ever any country, an African country, can go and fight with its neighbor because of the inheritance of colonial period, so we can tell Uganda, Tanzania, and maybe Burundi to get ready because Rwanda will come and fight with them for to liberate the people who are living across the Rwandan border. So it must be a good reason to go on the fight because of boundaries. It's I can see that there is something else behind this war. Thank you.
You're welcome. I definitely agree. And more, most people, even in media, you see, agree. This is a war about resources. This is a war about the right to plunder Eastern Congo. And what most people don't realize is Eastern Congo is actually one of the wealthiest part of the Congo, with most of the minerals that are required for what people call the fourth industrial revolution, which is a revolution of electrical technology just enhancing. This is where our electric cars, our parts of the planes, this is where all those rich minerals come from. And more these corporations want them totally free without any penny. So we'll jump into our first discussion. Since RDF is in Goma right now, more and more people are now starting to question about Southern Kivus and what could they possibly be the next target. We know that the goal is to balkanize or cut off both the Northern and Southern Kivu. The Southern Kivu has the community called Banyamulenges. These are Congolese This is a Congolese people who are of the Tutsi ethnicity, and they live in southern Kivus in the hills of Minembwe. Quite a few wars have already involved them. Their community is struggling. Honestly, it has struggled by having to take all the consequences of so many of these wars, displacement, and we know that there's many Banyamulenge refugees and immigrants now living in Rwanda. So I guess I would like everyone to kind of give a thought on this. Who can put an end to any of these serial hardships and tragedy that go through the local population? I was reading this morning that they're saying at least 1,200 people have already been killed in Goma, and we're now seeing images of people, civilians, having to then go and clean up the corpses and bodies off the streets. So what are your thoughts on how this will affect the southern Kivu? And do we have a chance of, unfortunately, the Banyamulenge community being driven into this once again? Celestine, we'll start with you once again. You're just on mute, yeah. You're on mute, Celestine. Yeah.
I would like to tell you that images and videos are now emerging from Goma. It appears that there were very serious war crimes and crimes against humanity. That means the killing of unarmed civilians, populations. Now, however, the Rwandans and the so-called M23 have captured the city of Goma, and the front have moved further south of Minova. And about yesterday or day before yesterday, there was talk about the front line being just about 40 kilometers north of the city of Bukavu. So Bukavu is now the next target. And the Banyamulenge are further south of Bukavu because they live in the heights over the city of Uvira. It is where they live, it is not easy to reach there. So accessibility is an issue. But, these are combatants, they are soldiers, so they definitely can reach there. And don't forget, they are also now helicopter gunships, which can drop fighters up there in the mountains. Yeah. Perhaps before moving to South Kivu, we should tell our listeners that the root cause of the conflict in Eastern Congo being the minerals, and considering that we don't know any industrial use of these minerals in Rwanda, there are no factories using these minerals. It appears, therefore, that these minerals are exported, and that the government in Rwanda or the president of Rwanda or whoever runs Rwanda is getting commissions, is being bribed, and he's being enabled to carry out these fighting activities on behalf of these transnational corporations which are hungry of minerals. Now, you touched on the electric, the clean energy revolution. In fact, this clean energy revolution could be one of the factors which will end this war, because the minerals needed for the clean energy, the minerals needed for that revolution are cobalt and copper and possibly zinc. And these minerals are found in Katanga, the former Katanga province. And that is too far from Rwanda.
May I ask then, what is coltan? What is coltan then?
Coltan is another mineral. It is coltan is an abbreviation of colombo tantalite. And this one is used in computers and also to manufacture our cell phones. Whereas the clean energy is the energy using electric batteries in transportation to move vehicles. Instead, these batteries are going to be used instead of gas. And it is going to be a very serious revolution, because, as you know, there are billions of cars all over the world, and all these cars many of them are going to be moving around using clean energy. So, but in this war situation, the clean energy is not in the picture. What is the picture is coltan and also minerals of high value, such as gold and diamonds. These are minerals which are not strategic, but they are minerals of a very high yield in terms of money. So, and the advantage of these minerals also, they don't take huge volumes. So they don't need trucks or trains to be transported. But just intercontinental jets like those used by President Kagame can carry a lot of money, can carry good consignment of gold or diamonds priced in millions of dollars without being forced to use a huge cargo space. So the green revolution is going to be one of the factors which is going to drive the multi or transnational companies to withdraw their support from President Kagame because they just need him to get hold of the coltan, not of the cobalt. You understand? So that is the situation now we are in. But as we were now touching on the South Kivu province, I don't think the government of Congo would be able to stop the onslaught of Rwandan army. The Rwandan army is a war-hardened army. War-hardened army. It has been fighting for the last some of them are fighting for over 30 years. They started fighting in Uganda in the early 80s, 82, 83, with President Museveni, where they were in the Ugandan bush. So these are people who are war-hardened, and Congolese are people who not only are not good soldiers per se, but also they are very peaceful people. They have allowed their army to be infiltrated by Rwandans, and these Rwandans have been making it impossible for this army to stand their ground. And the encounter with the Rwandan troops have been like a walk in the park for the Rwandan troops, because they did not meet any kind of, no stiff resistance from the Congolese. But Congolese are not alone. Congolese are fighting this war together with troops from Southern Africa, troops from South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania. And these people, which are
that was actually going to be my next question, where we're going to dive in a little bit deep in the neighboring countries and what they bring to the table. So if you don't mind holding that thought, and then we'll get Marceline's thought a little bit on Goma and South Kivu, and then we'll dive into the next one. Thank you so much.
Yes, Marceline, go ahead.
Okay. Of course, the rebels, we maybe go and reach the South province of Kivu if they are not stopped. And that is brings us to the double standards which exist between some conflicts where the international community reacts accordingly. But in the case of Congo, no one is reacting. If there is no reaction, it is because some of the powerful countries have sided with Rwanda, which is the aggressor. It's up to them to prove us wrong. But the conflict has lasted over 30 years. No one can say that they don't know anything about it. I remember that for the Clinton administration, Kagame is called the kind of guy, as Soweto was. So whatever he does in Rwanda and DRC, in Africa and abroad, the kind of guy has is freedom of movement, and whatever he does. So human rights violations in his country, killings in Africa and beyond, seem unnoticed. The European Union, England, the United States continue to pour money to Rwanda without scrutiny. So that is what it means being the kind of guy. And we'd like that it changes, because it has been 30 years that Congolese, Rwandans suffer from that conflict. And I really don't wish that they go until South Kivu, but they will do if the entire international community does nothing. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for those thoughts. It's right. It seems like they do feel at times like an immovable force that no one is able to fight against. Coming back to Celestine's last comment, this morning I also saw a clip of the Burundian president, Neva. Sorry, I don't even know what that stands for. Evariste Ndayishimiye? Ndayishimiye. So the president, and he was giving a frank warning to the international community that if the RDF, the Rwandan army, goes southwards, they will encounter Burundians. And he was giving them a warning that this would not be the first time Rwanda has tried to destabilize Burundi, and that Burundi is actively preparing themselves to counter this, and they will not allow, what is being done in Congo to be done in Burundi again. And then I also saw, what is his name? Kainerugaba, Museveni's, the president of Uganda's son, talking about Uganda phones. They need to protect Uganda phones. And so this has been very interesting how now more and more we're kind of seeing where all the neighboring leaders stand, whether they may be willing to fight with the Congolese or whether they might actually try to make, partnerships with M23 RDF. So your point that you were about to share with us, Celestine.
Sasha, you need to know that nowadays in international relations between countries would not accept one of them to gain territory from a neighbor. That is the situation we have now in Eastern Europe. And countries like Uganda or Tanzania would not allow Rwanda to expand at the expense of Congo or Burundi, because it would become a regional power in its own right. And that would kind of destabilize the regional setting, the regional balance of power in the region. But on top of that, I was telling you that the South Africans, which have been fighting alongside the Congolese to defend the territorial integrity of Congo, South Africa, as a regional powerhouse, would not want to appear to be a weakling or tiny Rwanda. And, of course, a powerful country such as Angola, which Angola is the second biggest producer of oil in Africa, behind Nigeria. Angola has a lot of means, and they have also a war-hardened army. President Kagame, when he refused to attend a summit meeting called by the mediator, and that was the president of Angola. It was a slap in his face. So they would not want to allow him to go unscathed, unpunished, I mean. And of course, Tanzania, which is a regional power in that area, and which is also a hub of peace, democracy, and tranquility. Tanzania also would not allow Burundi to be taken over by tiny Rwanda. So you see, it is going to become a regional conflict. That's why it is important to stop it now before the fall of Bukavu, the capital city of South Kivu. They don't stop. If it cannot be stopped now, Rwanda is going to be too powerful to be stopped. Yes, if Rwanda can swallow North and South Kivu, that will become an important power, which would not be easy, which would not be easily stoppable.
You know, I think I've been thinking about it very naively. In my head, I've thought the more they take, the less they can control. Therefore, that might actually weaken Rwanda. But the way you're describing it is actually no. The more land they get, the more power they may actually gain.
The more land, the more resources, the more, yes. But that being said, there is also another problem, and I touched on that problem, that the transnational companies are having their attention now in the south, in Katanga, because of the Green Revolution. So now their attention is being taken to the coltan, the copper, and the zinc minerals, which are found in Katanga, not in these Kivu provinces. And these multinational companies being the enablers of Rwanda. Rwanda is going to find itself being, they will lack means, they will lack funding. And in addition to that, we need also to underline the fact that the regime in Rwanda has been there for 30 years. There is a kind of unanimity that this regime has been there too long. It has been troublesome for too long, that Rwanda needs refreshment. Change is needed down there. Change is needed, and you need to take into account all those elements, all those factors, to evaluate the possibility of change is called for by almost all the neighbors of Rwanda, except Uganda, because of this young general who is an unruly general in Uganda, Kainerugaba Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of President Museveni, because he thinks that he has been congratulating M23 for having captured the city of Goma, where everyone in the region and also in the outer world community, everybody was concerned about the developments and about the war crimes. As I told you, there were war crimes, and nowadays war crimes need to be prosecuted. And this situation is actually leading us to the possibility of the creation of an international tribunal to address these, which they have been emerged. They are on screens of TVs all around the world. It would be difficult to look the other way in front of when there is an uproar, especially in the West, about the crimes Russia is committing in Ukraine, or the crimes Israel has been committing in Gaza. So that is the situation for now. And
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Marceline, can you share with us any of your thoughts on the neighboring countries and impact, how this war might impact them?
About the neighboring countries, in my opinion, I have started questioning the existence of the African Union and its use in all this, because the Article 3 of its charter suggests that the signatories are committed to defend the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence of its member states. So what's wrong with our African countries and our African leaders? If they can't abide by the laws and the regulations they put in place, if they can't fight for one another to defend the country like Congo, what's next? Why are they there? So for the neighboring countries, if the African Union can't do anything for them, if the international community has sided with the aggressor, and as Celestine said, the more territory Rwanda M23 gain, the more powerful they become. So if they don't watch out, maybe the next turn will be theirs. It's up to them to apply what they teach. What is in the text, they have to apply them. Because if Congo is attacked, no one raises its finger. If Burundi is attacked, no one will say anything, won't say anything. If Tanzania is attacked, they will say nothing. So either the African Union exists and can do something, at least bringing its children, I mean African countries, together and teach them not to fight each other, or there is no African Union. So they can't leave their fate to international community, as we see that it is reluctant to react depending on the interest at stake. So I can say that I ask the African Union to really exist and show that it is there. Thank you.
That is such a good point. They need to show they're there and also prioritize the well-being of Africans, but also underline that if Africa is to be successful, if it is actually to develop, we have to now start making not just deals, but working together to interconnect the country rather than continuously fighting each other, where one country is supposed to have betterment on the other. So coming off what Marceline just shared with us, I know that the Security Council at the UN, I believe, and the European Union, they're all having talks. A lot of people are making noise in regards about Rwanda removing their soldiers, stepping back. But we're not really seeing things like sanctions or actual actions, direct actions that might impact this. I'm not quite sure about the full picture, but I know that in Goma there is almost a siege-like atmosphere where food, water, and electricity and power is just becoming harder and harder to access. So, what is the point of these things, like you said, African Union, European Union, Security Council, if they're simply there to speak and never put their words into action? In the last 2 years, I think we saw a double standard in the worth of human lives when, for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a different way of speaking to that than what is happening now. So, what are these international organizations, Celestine? What is their purpose, and how can we add pressure to them to actually have things like sanctions and actual direct actions?
Sasha, you see, the structure of the international trade is so that the West or European countries and North American countries, which include yours and America, they really don't appear in the structure of the minerals trade. Minerals are being traded between the smugglers from Rwanda and the transnational companies. These companies are very powerful. When you take a company like Bombardier or a company like Rolls-Royce, which one? Yes,
The British.
British,
Wow.
like Siemens or Philips. These are the companies.
Those are home brand names. Those are like everyday things we use. I would have thought it's like corporations we never know about. Wow.
Plug in your cell phone. And see, these companies are the one pressurizing their government not to apply sanctions to Rwanda. And they come to an elected member of parliament, they pressurize him to reject or to abstain from voting sanctions against Rwanda, because they say that if you apply these sanctions, we will not be able to get the minerals which keep these countries ahead of what you call the high tech. The government would, but they would easily yield to the pressure of these people. Those elected officials who do not yield are putting themselves in a situation whereby they would lose the next election. Sasha, you understand that?
Yeah. Yes.
So I need you to and our listeners to understand that when you say that Belgium or France or Germany or UK or America are not voting sanctions, that's the reason they are being pressurized by very powerful senators or member of parliaments, because of the reason I have just explained to you, that if you vote sanctions against our friend, you are going to fund the election of your rival.
Yeah.
And so many of them are afraid of such a development. That is one thing. The other thing is that I told you, Rwanda has a very powerful army. It has proved to be an effective army, well trained, well disciplined, and it has become a tool in the hands of the Western countries. Where there is a crisis, instead of sending in Canadian soldiers or American Marines or German soldiers or the French soldiers or the British Royal the British soldiers, now they send in Rwandans because they are paid cheaper. They go, they deploy without needing a permission from their own parliament. The parliament of Rwanda is not, sometimes it is not made even aware that Rwanda is deploying soldiers.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so the Rwandan troops don't need sanction, because if you apply sanction to them, they will go hungry. They will lack resources to train and to stay alert and
Not already.
ready you call it in military jargon, you call it standby.
Yes, yes.
On standby, they can deploy to any point all around Africa at first short notice.
Sorry to cut you off, Celestine. I've just been told that we're having technical problems with Zoom and that it might be cutting up any moment, but keep going. I want to thank you and Marceline for coming and having this discussion with me. We still had quite a bit to speak about, like the impact if this war is taken on Rwanda's soil and what the Trump presidency could have changed. So I really want to apologize about our tech problems this week, but hopefully we can meet up again and finish these questions. But please finish your thought. Please finish your thought.
So are you giving?
Yeah, you can finish your thought. Yeah, I was just letting you know that it might die if you don't see us. That's what's happening.
I'm done. I'm done, Sasha. I'm done.